Hey students, I'm Dr. Chris Martin. In this cool video, I'll talk to you about how to prepare and plant a successful vegetable garden. First, how do you know if the location that you've identified for your vegetable garden is a good one? Here are some important points for you to consider. A good location for a vegetable garden will need to have at least 4 to 6 hours or more of sunlight each day throughout the year. It'll also need close access to a water source and have a generally level surface so that rain or irrigation water doesn't run off or erode good soil. A good garden soil also needs to be free of rocks, debris, and noxious weeds such as Bermuda grass. Preparing a garden site usually begins by inspecting the soil surface for weeds and surface debris and removing them before preparing your soil for the garden planting. One simple way to eradicate most garden weeds is to remove them mechanically by using a garden tool called a hula hoe. Check it out. Using a hula hoe is easy. When used properly, this garden tool eradicates most small weeds at or just below the surface, leaving their root systems intact to die. The next step is to use a round point garden shovel to probe the soil in several places to a depth of 6 to 10 inches. Doing this will help determine if the soil will need to have organic matter mixed into it. I suspect that if this garden site is in the desert, it will. What's the best way to mix organic matter into your garden soil? If the garden site is less than 500 square feet, then the mixing of organic matter into the soil can be done manually with a hand shovel or spade. When probing the soil at a new garden site with a shovel, dig in a consistent pattern, turning over the soil and breaking up those gigantic soil clods with the side of the shovel. Next, apply a thick layer of composted organic matter to the soil surface. Then, thoroughly mix the organic matter into the soil with the shovel to a depth of 6 to 10 inches. This process is called amending the soil. Last, level the surface of the amended soil with a garden rake.
Here's a sustainable tip. Frequent mechanical tilling of garden soil is generally a poor practice because it can break up soil structure. This can lead to a compacted soil that drains water poorly and also disturbs beneficial soil microorganisms. Whenever possible, do not till your soil when installing your garden. Resist the urge to always mechanically till your garden with a rototiller. This will protect and conserve your soil structure and save you money.
Now, it's finally time to plant your garden. So right now, I want to offer a few tips on how to properly plant seeds, transplants, and bulbs. Personally, I found that growing vegetables and herbs from seed can be a really rewarding experience. There are so many different types to choose from. To grow garden plants from seed the right way, first, get educated by studying the information on the seed packet. Beware though, if your garden is in Phoenix, then the planting dates given on the seed packet will be wrong. This is because the growing seasons in the desert Southwest are very different from the rest of the United States. Instead, refer to planting calendars that are specific to our region. With that in mind, let's look at a seed packet. First, on the packet, identify the cultivar or variety of seed that you're going to drop in the ground. Note its growing habit and where on the packet it indicates the number of days to germination and the approximate harvest date. Then, look at the recommendations for how deep to sow the seed. Here's a general rule of thumb for you seed lovers. The size of the seed correlates to how deep to sow it. In other words, bigger seeds are sown deeper into the soil. Vegetable garden plants with small seeds, such as carrots, should be sown very superficially and only lightly covered with soil. Keep in mind, however, that large seeds, such as squash, should be sown into the ground in a narrow trough or trench about 1 inch deep. On the packet label are recommendations for seed spacing, or how far apart the seeds should be sown for best yield. Don't make the rookie mistake of sowing seeds too close together. Doing this will certainly mean thinning the forest of seedlings a few weeks later. Finally, after sowing the seed, don't forget to water thoroughly and keep the soil evenly moist until the seeds have germinated and emerged. Now, you may feel guilty about being a transplant to the desert Southwest, but when talking about desert gardening in small spaces, using vegetable transplants to start a garden is a good choice. Vegetable transplants are simply young starter plants grown from seed in a small container that are usually purchased from a nursery or garden center. Only purchase garden transplants from a plant nursery that are healthy with good color, disease-free, and are not overgrown. Now here's how to plant vegetables and herbs as transplants. First, dig a hole to the same depth as the plant's root ball, but twice as wide. Gently tease apart the roots to loosen them up. This will help the roots grow out into the garden soil more quickly. Place the transplant into the hole and give it some water. Let the water drain and then backfill the hole with amended garden soil. Next, very gently tap down the soil around the base of the plant. After you have carefully planted your garden transplant, finish off the process by applying a 2 to 3 inch layer of organic mulch, such as straw. I'm often asked whether it's best to start a garden from seed or to use transplants. There are really several factors to consider, but really for me, the decision is a function of space and time. I usually recommend using vegetable transplants for small garden spaces under 500 square feet. This is a more efficient practice than sowing seed. But for fast-growing, high-density crops like carrots, sowing seeds is really a better choice. Finally, some plants, such as onions and garlic, are planted into the garden as bulbs. Using bulbs is like using transplants. Now, if you're purchasing your bulbs from a nursery, make sure that they are firm and healthy. This example shows how to plant garlic bulbs. First, dig a hole at least 2 times deeper than the length of the bulb. Now, it's really important to orient the bulb properly in the hole when planting. Place the basal side down so that the roots will grow downwards, and the top portion upwards so that the leaves will emerge from out of the ground. Place the bulb gently into the hole and backfill it with amended soil. Water it normally, just like watering a vegetable transplant.
Here's a sustainable tip. Every few days, check your garden soil for dryness, especially during the warm growing season. Throughout the year, your garden soil should be moist to a depth of 8 inches to grow a great vegetable garden.
In this video, I've talked about how to properly prepare and plant a new vegetable garden. Remember to select a garden site that has adequate sunlight and water, is generally level, and has been made free of noxious weeds and debris. A new garden site will most certainly need to have the soil first amended with composted organic matter to improve its structure and fertility. When planting your garden, whether by seeds, transplants, or bulbs, always use proper horticultural techniques. Information about the proper techniques for planting a vegetable garden here in the desert Southwest are available from many different resources, including seed packets, textbooks, and reputable internet websites. With proper care and attention, you will soon be harvesting your own homegrown vegetables and herbs.